So now we're moving on to the Sentinels. Yes, the Sentinels have finally showed up, and in the first part of the Sentinels, we get introduced to Bulver Trask, who is the mastermind behind. That's funny. He's not the mastermind. He is the senator in charge of developing the Sentinel project. And at some point in this issue, someone, I think it's Professor Xavier, says, "Good thing he knows nothing about electronics, or he'd have realized the error of his ways." Because of course the Sentinels turn on him because they know what's best. They were programmed to protect humanity, and so humanity needs protection from themselves. That happened very quick, but it is pretty funny. So that's pretty much what's going on. We get this guy, he's talking about how mutants need to do whatever, blah blah blah. Professor Xavier goes to have a discussion with him on CNN or something, and while they're there, the Sentinels show up, and then that's when they grab him and start attacking everybody and taking him hostage. There's some continuity concerns as far as I'm concerned, where the Sentinels don't recognize Charles as a mutant, but then later on they see Angel flying, and it's not that he's flying, because there's people who fly who aren't mutants, but they're like, "Oh, we sense that he's a mutant, so we must attack him." And it's like, what? But yeah, so Professor Xavier goes to have this discussion with this guy, and then the X-Men show up to protect him and fight off the Sentinels. And for some reason, one of the Sentinels just kind of collapses while they're fighting it, even though it's super strong and they're having a real hard time with it. There's at least 6 or 7. And we find out the Sentinels are taking the guy back to Master Mold, or Mastermind. I think they call him Mastermind, Master Mold's a future iteration. And he's like, "What are you doing?" Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, it's pretty good. We get a little bit more development with Scott wanting to be with Jean, and Angel kind of recognizing that, and Jean wanting to be with Scott, but him just being a kind of sour potamus. And then we get some more Zelda, who is Bobby Drake's first girlfriend, at the little place him and Hank, who's the Beast, go to hang out in Washington Square. So that's fun. And just a little bit of character development around. Oh, and they're all going home for vacation. That's how this all starts. I remember now. So we see Warren Worthington's parents. They seem very supportive, but we find out they have no idea, because his angel wings didn't develop until he was off at military school, and he was able to hide it and before he was transferred over to Charles's school. So that's interesting. And he's very concerned if they were able to find out. But yeah, good stuff. All right. Master Mold very quickly in this next In fact, he names the X-Men specifically as the people that he's trying to capture the most, which is interesting, because up to this point, the X-Men are pretty much the good guys in several different cases, and Bulver Trask as a senator, I think is what he is, should know the truth. But alas, this is so it starts off actually with they got attacked by the fortress of the Sentinels, and they all escape away from that up onto a hill. And they're like, "Oh, how are we going to get in?" And so Iceman executes some order thing they've done before, where he creates an ice glider, and then Cyclops uses his optic blast to blast the glider to the fortress, so it kind of flies over there, which the whole thing is completely ridiculous. But it's cool, so whatever. Angel goes too, because he can fly, and that's when Beast and Iceman get captured, and then Warren almost gets captured, but he flies away. So then Beast and Iceman get dumped in a glass container of gas. Later, Beast gets taken out and taken to Master Mold, and essentially Master Mold's like, "You will help me, Bulver Trask, use my psychic something something bull crap device to get information from Beast so that I can destroy the X-Men, or I'll start destroying random human cities." And there's Bulver Trask is very sad about this. And then Beast starts revealing his past, which his past is literally just "Oh, my dad worked at an atomic thing. He was a blue-collar construction guy." And so then as I was getting older, I started being very fast and strong, and the ability to be like a monkey almost. And then I got a scholarship for a football team, and that's when I got too excited, and everyone realized I wasn't human. And then I was saved by somebody. And Mastermind's like, oh, this is the good part. This is where we find out who we got saved by, the leader of these X-Men, so we can destroy them. And around the same time, Professor X is like, I'm gonna go see what's going on in there. Make sure there's no shenanigans with it. And he gets there just in time, obviously, to kind of sever the link, the psychic link with the machine or whatever that he's using. And it's also like Balder Trask around this point realizes that, oh, I made a terrible mistake. The mutants aren't our enemies. The Sentinels are enemies that I created. I've done a terrible thing, and I should have realized that the mutants were just trying to help, and yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, somehow, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Angel roll up to the fortress because Professor X uses his mental powers to kind of shut down a bunch of Sentinels, because even though they're robots, they have some sort of thing where, why not? He can still somewhat access their brains and go ahead and turn that switch right off. Why not? Psychic powers, there's no definition at this juncture. It's just like whatever's convenient for the bot, which is fine. I just wonder if it's ever going to come up later, because this is like the second time in a row that he's used his psychic powers against like machines. So they're able to kind of sneak in there, and they find a Sentinel who's like, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, we're here to rescue our friends. And the guy's like, I don't have programming for this, so you come with me and we'll go to the leader. The shift leader, they keep calling him. We'll figure it out. And so they're going, and then they see Iceman in the cage, and like, oh, let's go rescue Iceman. And the Sentinel's like, hey. And they're like, ta-da! And they like beat him up real good. And then they rescue Iceman, and then they all go rescue Beast. I think that's where it kind of wraps up. Master Mold makes a lot of threats to everybody, but they haven't like started their final battle with the Master Mold and the Sentinels just yet. So next up, we have the final issue of the Sentinel arc, and in this one, Dr. Trask, I don't remember if he's a Sentinel or not. I know I kept saying that, but I think that's a different Trask later on, or that's from the movies or something. I don't know. Anyway, so the X-Men are stuck in a gravity ball they got captured in last time, except for Beast. And they try as they might, but can't get out. And then they come up with a plan that they're going to wait for them to open the bobble, to get Beast inside, and they're going to use their full force of their power to get out. And so they execute on that, and they're able to escape and knock a couple of the Sentinels out. But then they get shot with like a stun ray by the Sentinels, and it's like, ruh-roh. But meanwhile, Professor X this whole time, he has been busy. He crawled his way to a highway, got some guys to take him back to where the initial Sentinel was toppled over so that he could figure out what did it. And the MacGuffin, or I don't know if that's the right usage, but the Deus Ex Machina situation is that there's like a crystal that's hanging up on like a skyscraper near where the building is, and as the Sentinel like crossed over the window, it deactivated him for reasons that were never made fully clear because it's a comic book from the 60s. And so Professor X is like, we gotta get that crystal and take it over here. And the police are like, yeah, all right. So right before the X-Men are about to get stomped to death by the Sentinels, Charles and the police fly by in a police helicopter with the crystal and start knocking Sentinels out with like just stuff. And then the X-Men get up and they're like, all right, we gotta stop Master Mold, and they run. Also, meanwhile, Dr. Trask has started helping Master Mold develop more Sentinels so that Master Mold doesn't destroy a city. But then he has like a second crisis of conscience, because the first crisis was like, oh, the X-Men were good all along and I was the bad guy. The second one's like, I can't do it. He'll just keep creating Sentinels until he destroys all of mankind and puts us all into slavery, something. I have to stop this now. And so then he gets a giant wrench like you find in like old cartoons and smashes everything up good. And then it causes like a chain reaction and starts blowing up the whole place. So the X-Men have like a exciting Indiana Jones style escape from the Temple of Doom kind of situation where the whole thing's like blowing up in fire and Iceman's like melting away and they're running out, and using all their powers combined, they're able to escape. And then Professor Xavier like hides the X-Men from the police officers using his telekinetic powers. And it's like, victory. Again, the X-Men solved all their problems by virtually doing nothing. It's just existing, sort of. Professor X is really the all-star of these episodes, these issues so far. But that wraps up the Sentinel saga. We see a last view. obviously they're going to show back up again. But for now, this first Sentinel arc is done. Master Mold has been destroyed by the sacrifice of Dr. Trask, who created him. And then the X-Men are like, hooray, we did it again.